Imagine you have analyzed your data. Let me show you what I've done so far so that we talk about what I'm going to do next, right? So I have my data. I have gone through all the transcripts. I have 10 transcripts gone through all identifying significant information, developing codes and themes to address my research questions. So when you go to codes, so I'm using NVivo, right? So you see here in Vivo, I have my codes here. I have three research questions. I've been able to develop themes for my first research question. The second one, yeah, we will consider these as themes. It is consider we don't have a lot of code, so you can consider them as themes addressing the research question that you have here. The third one, I haven't finished developing the themes yet. But what I want us to think about is that imagine you have gone through all the transcript, developed themes to address your research question. Do you have to go further to explore the connection between the themes? When do you have to stop analyzing your data? And this is what we're going to talk about. So there are about three conditions that you will have to think about if you are considering going further to explore the connection between the themes that you have, right? So the first one is if your focus is to develop a theory, then after developing themes, you have to think about whether there is a connection between them, because without establishing the connection, you'll not be able to develop theory to explain the phenomenon, right? So especially if you are using a granite theory, then you have to go further to develop a theory or a framework explaining the phenomenon, what exactly you are focusing on, what exactly you want to explain. A theory is statements that shows the relationship between themes or concept explaining a phenomenon. So if you intend to develop a theory and going further to explore the connection between the themes is very important. The next one is if you think that none of the themes can not individually address your research question, then this is a signal to you to explore the connection between the themes. Let me give you an example. So let's say you have already developed themes here. Right, so I have my themes addressing my first research question. So the first research question is about conceptualization and application of principles of responsible innovation, right? And these are the themes that I have. So if you think that each of the themes cannot individually address your research question, then this is a signal to you that you have to explore the connection between them, right? Can I combine most of them or some of them to help me to adequately address my research question, right? Is a research question also more of a process? So let me show you my research question here that I'm exploring. So when your research questions start with how, it's a little bit signal to you that you may need to also explore the connection between their themes, right? It's not all the time true, but it's a way of thinking about, oh, should I go further to explore the connection between the themes so that you'll be able to adequately address the research question, right? So whenever your research question is about a process, it's a green light for you to go further and see whether there's a need for you to look at a connection between the themes that you have, right? So as you can see here, the research question is that how do innovators, policymakers, regulators, and members of the public conceptualize and apply principles of responsible innovation in their respective roles and context? Right. So you are looking into the process of the applying or conceptualizing responsible innovation. So in this case, if you think that individual themes are not independently addressing the research question, this is the chance for you to explore the connection between them. So if you see here, one of the themes is accessibility and equity, right? And another one is balancing innovation and regulation. Another one is continuous monitoring and adaptation. So looking at this, do you think they can individually address the research question? If not, this is a signal to you that, okay, I have to go further and explore the connection. So another condition that I want us to explore is, let me look for the next condition. So the third condition is that is your data enough? So if your data is enough to explore the connection, you can go ahead and explore, right? One thing that you have to think about is that when it comes to analyzing your data, you are an instrument, you are making sense of the data. Sometimes you have so much knowledge that you already know the connection between the themes. But the question is, does your data support that connection? Do you have enough data to go further to explore the connection? Exploring the connection doesn't mean that you are bringing your own background knowledge to do the connection. Every connection that you want to do should be based on the data, should be grounded on the data. Data has to dictate whether there's a need for you to explore the connection between the themes that you have, right? So it's very important. So these are the three conditions that you have to explore whenever you are thinking about going further to look into the connection between their themes, right? So the first one is, are you developing a theory? The second one is, do you think that your themes can individually and independently address your research question without introducing another theme, right? Also, the research question, if the research question is more about a process, starting with how, it's a signal that you have to look into whether there's a need for you to explore the connection between them, right? The last one is, is your data enough for you to explore the connection? If it's not enough, you may stop, right? You can put it in your recommendation, right? That future researchers can explore these potential connections, right? But you didn't go further to explore the connection because your data is not enough. Even if you are doing a granular theory study, and if you realize that your data is not enough for you to go further to explore the connection between the theme, you have to stop. You can either go and interview more participants or interview previous participants to get more information to establish the connection, or leave the study and then make recommendations. So that's what you have to do. So these are the three conditions that you have to explore before you move further to look into the connection between the themes, right? So let's assume that we have explored these conditions and we think that there's a need for us to go into the connection between the themes. What do you have to do next, right? So you can use ChatGPT to help you to explore the connections, right? But before you think about using ChatGPT, you also have to know the potential connections. What are the different kinds of relationships that you can explore? There are about 5 kinds of relationship that you can explore. Let me show you those 5, right? So the first one is the embedded relationship. Is there any, you can call it a hierarchical relationship, right? Is some of the themes come under other themes? Do you see some of the themes as dominant and some of them as sub themes or less dominant? Can you combine that? That's one theme, an example of the other theme, right? So embedded means that one theme comes under the other theme. One theme can be dominant and the second theme can be less dominant. You can also explore whether there's a concurrent relationship. Concurrent means that have the themes happen at the same time, right? So when you look at this one, in terms of how you conceptualize and apply principles of responsible innovation, thus ethical risk assessment happen at the same time with a stakeholders engagement, right? So just looking at this without looking at the data, right, which you shouldn't do, but just for example, let's say the data, based on the data, it looks like there might not be any connection. There might be a connection, but there's no concurrent connection between ethical risk assessment and also stakeholder engagement. Maybe you have to engage stakeholder first before you look into ethical risk assessment, or maybe you have to do the ethical risk first before you do that. We may not know yet because maybe we have to explore the data and know more whether they are happening at the same time. So another one that you have to think about is chronological or sequential relationship, right? But sequential means that that's one happen and the other one follow. So looking at the data or the themes, that ethical risk assessment happens after the stakeholder engagement, right? Does stakeholder engagement happen before transparency and accountability, right? So these are the things that you have to explore. And then divergent relationship. Are there any theme that is the opposite each other, right? So you can explore that. Is there any causal relationship? Is one thing causing the other? When this thing happen, then this other thing follow. So these are some of the relationship that you have to explore. And you can do it manually by going through and seeing whether you can find any relationship. So what you can do is that first, because you know more about the data, you went through and developed your own theme, you can see maybe you already written memos about all these themes, so you may suspect that there's a relationship between some themes. You can look at the data, right, and see whether any of the quotations support that relationship, right? You can explore that manually by clicking on any of the theme that you are interested in to see the quotations, and also double clicking on the other theme and see the quotations. So you can explore that, right? I'm using NVivo Windows. If you are using Mac, the same thing, can double click to get that information. So you can manually explore the quotations that are linked to each of the themes so that you can explore as you are looking into the relationship between them, right? Another option is to create a framework matrix. I'm going to show you how to create a framework matrix. Framework matrix is just a table that shows all the themes and the quotations that are linked to the themes, and also the source participant that are linked to the quotations and linked to the themes. This table can help you to explore the connection between the themes because you have all the quotation in the cells of the spreadsheet, and then you can also explore that, right? You can do that manually. But what I'm going to show you is how to use ChatGPT to help you to explore the relationship. That's what I'm going to emphasize on. We also talk about the types of relationship that we can explore: current, embedded, chronological, causal, and also divergent relationship. And now we want to use ChatGPT to help us to explore the relationships. And how are you going to do that? We're going to download the framework metrics from NVivo. If you are using NVivo Mac, you may not have that option, right? But if you are using NVivo Windows, you can download the framework metrics outcome, and then we can go to ChatGPT to explore. Let's go back to NVivo. So you go to files and then select all of your files, right? Your transcripts, select all of them. Right click on it and go to create as, and click on create as cases so that you create cases for them. If you want to see all the cases, you click here, cases, and then you can see all the cases here. So without creating cases, you will not be able to use the framework metrics. So after creating the cases, you go to create framework metrics, and then you type themes for research question one, right? And then because I'm focusing on only the themes for research question one, if you are focusing on a theme for research question two, you can type that. This one is just remind me what the kind of table I'm creating. So I go to rows, I click on select, and then select all the cases or participants, click on OK, and I go to columns and I go to select and I focus on only the themes, right? That's what I want to focus on. Click on OK here. And within few seconds, you have your table, right? In order to make sure that all of the quotation has been downloaded, it's very important for you to right click here and go to Undock to bring out the table so that you can see it well, and go to Framework Metrics, click on Auto Summarize to extract all the quotations here. Now it has extracted everything. So you can see that P1, all the quotations linked to the first theme. The second theme, these are the quotation. The third theme, P1, there's no information from P1 connected to the theme. This is the information that we're going to use to help us to explore the relationship between the themes, right? So when you finish, you right click any place here and go to export so that you can export it and save it where you want to save it. I want to save it on my desktop. And then we go to ChatGPT. So the next step is to go to ChatGPT. So let me open ChatGPT here. So you go to ChatGPT. I'm using the paid version, $20 a month. So I have GPT-5. We want to have a conversation with the system so that the system will understand what exactly we want from it, right? So the prompt that we're going to use is called set back prompt. So it's a way of prompting where you want to set the stage for the task. You want to initially have a conversation with the system. You are technically training the system to help the system to draw boundaries in terms of what you want the system to do for you. So let me give you an example. Let's say you want a system to conduct thematic analysis for you, right? Following the 6 steps of reflexive thematic analysis. Before you ask the system to do reflexive thematic analysis for you, you have a conversation with the system about reflexive thematic analysis, right? So that you build foundation that everything that needs to be discussed or be done should be related to the information that has been discussed. Right. So in this case, you can upload an article about thematic analysis, have a conversation with the system that, okay, can you go through this article, identify all the 6 steps? And then after the system has identified all the 6 steps, then you go ahead and upload all your transcript or some of the transcript and ask questions and tell the system to follow the 6 steps to analyze your data. We call this type of prompting step back prompting. You are first have initial discussion with the system, and then you upload and ask the system to complete or analyze the data for you, or you ask the system to complete a task. Right. So that's what you're going to be. In this case, we want to have a discussion with the system about the types of relationship that a theme can have, right? All the 5 types that we discuss about, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one option is to, you can even select this one, right? And I will put a link in my video description so that you can also access this diagram. I did a linking post about this, so you can get access to this diagram by clicking on the link that I'm going to put in the description, right? So I'm going to copy this one just to have a discussion with the system about relationship between themes and the different kinds of relationship. I can first attach the information. I can say, what do you see? Right? So it has described the item, it has described the illustration, and also giving the information about the types of relationships, right? And then, yes, so now the system knows about this. So I can say, what are your thoughts about exploring relationship between themes in qualitative research or in qualitative, I would say in qualitative analysis? So what I'm trying to see is that I just want to have a discussion so that the system will have some kind of information, or me and the system are agreeing upon concerning what I need or the kind of information that the system has to focus on, right? So let's see. So it touches on the heart of moving from descriptive to interpretive qualitative analysis, right? So where you're trying to make sense of the data by looking at the connection between them. And then it also talks about all the 5 different kinds of relationship. And then also caution that not every study needs to push team relationships. Sometimes identifying clear standalone themes is sufficient. Pushing too far without data depth can lead to over-interpretation. So this is what I was talking about, that if your data doesn't support or will not be able to support the relationship, you don't have to explore the relationship, right? So it looks like the system really understand what the relationships, exploring the relationships are, right? Now, I'm going to now have a discussion with the system about making sense of the framework metrics that we downloaded. Right. Now, can you analyze the attached framework metrics from NVivo 15 Windows, exploring relationship between the themes under research? So now you can even put a research question here so that the system will know what exactly you want to address. The reason why you have to bring all this information is you have to make sure that you and the system are on the same page what exactly you are looking for. So don't assume that the system knows a lot about your study. So you have to give it all the information that it needs, right? And this is where you also question, you can say that make sure all the potential connections are based on the data in the attached spreadsheet. So let's see. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach the table, the framework metrics, and let's see what the system. So as you can see, I said, great. Now, can you analyze the attached framework metrics from NVivo 15 Windows, exploring relationship between the themes under research question 1, which is, and I also stated a research question 1, and make sure that all the potential connections are based on the quotation in the attached spreadsheet, right? So let's see what the system will give us. It's analyzing. Now, here's what I propose for the next step in analyzing relationship between themes for research question 1. So it has given us what it's going to do. So these are the steps we're going to do. Identify co-occurrence and overlapping themes, to sequence and process-oriented links, tensions, and conflict. Okay, so I'll tell the system to go ahead. So I'll say you can go ahead. So in terms of concurrent relationship, the system thinks that there is concurrent relationship between accessibility and equity and balancing innovation and regulation. So, and then it's also provided a quotation in supporting that. There's also continuous monitoring and adaptation is related to stakeholders engagement and the provided quotation. So you see how the system is not just guessing the connection. It's also providing evidence in supporting the connection. So there's embedded relationship here. So these are one. So it said ethical risk assessment embedded in accessibility and equity. Okay, good. At this time, what you have to do is that you just have to review and make sure that all this information are right? So the system can make mistakes. So these are very good suggestions, but you have to make sure, especially the quotation, are the quotations supporting the relationship? So now what you can do is that you can ask the system to generate maybe a statement that demonstrate all the connections, right? So can you generate statement showing all the connections you have identified? And the system will write a statement. You see, the system will write a very good statement showing the connection. And so this information will be very good for you as you're trying to present the connection between the themes, right? And you can also even use this one as a way of designing a diagram. So what I normally do is that I copy this one and I go to Napkin AI. So I go to Napkin AI and I can paste that information here, and then the system can generate visual representation for me. So I go to new napkin, I go to blank napkin, and then paste this one here, and click on this one, and the system will be able to generate. I think I've used up all my free credits, so I cannot do it now. So if I were to generate that, it's going to be similar to these kind of visual representations. So you see here, let me show you some of the visual representation. So you see this visual representations, right? So when you click on that, to generate visual representation. You can see something similar like this, right? So as you can see here, it can generate something very useful for your presentation and also for your document, for your dissertation or research document, right? So that's what I have for you. Let me know whether you have any questions. I'll be happy to address them for you. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can also share my videos too to your colleagues and your friends. So thank you so much for your time.